Welcome back to another official season of the Betfred Doc Talk podcast. What podcast? What are we doing here? I'm drinking already.
Talking sports.
We are talking sports. I'm happy to say this is like the start of the season. You know, once Big Ten Media Days take place.
So what number is this?
Oh, shit.
Are we going calendar year?
I'm
or
gonna
are we doing season?
I think this is like season 10 for us. We're getting pretty close.
No, I'm talking about like podcast number. Are we going to call this like podcast number 1 of the of the 2023 season?
I just started with the 2023 calendar year.
Gotcha.
So this is number 12.
Okay.
But some good news because this is kind of when everything renews, right? So I'm happy to tell you that Betfred Sports is back on for another season.
Nice. Always good.
I'm happy to tell you.
Which they've been awesome to partner with, by the way.
Absolutely. And as soon as Nebraska gets
Brian
shit
Bennett's
together.
been awesome
Brian's the best.
For an Austin guy who lives in Cali.
Yeah. And he went to Texas now.
He did. He is a UT guy.
Yeah.
You got to forgive him that.
Yeah. Connor Orr back for another season.
Love it. Love Counselor.
And Scott Strunk back for another season. So
nice.
Yes. So you're going to have to get all your Husker gear at huskerhounds.com.
Dude, I still buy all my Husker gear from Scott.
Well, you know what? I buy everything from Scott when I need something college-related because I'm not buying a lot of red. You know that. But
you are an Iowa State / Creighton guy.
Sure. You go ahead and tell yourself that. You go ahead and do. But
he'll get anything.
Absolutely.
He got a University of Oregon Ducks parka for Joel Wilkes.
See, no, that's pretty cool. Speaking of Joel Wilkes, and we're going to get to our guest Tom Shatel from the Omaha World Herald here in a second. But speaking of Joel Wilkes, a big announcement coming out because a week ago we had 4/5 of the original Pipeline in the basement studio recording the first 3 episodes of the original Pipeline podcast.
I think we generated our own gravitational field in your basement. That's how dense it was down here.
But I was kind because I redid the entire, Owen redid the entire basement.
Which honestly, that was freaking awesome. And we had like no expectation of that. And the fact that you did that to record those segments with us was amazing.
Well, I just thought it was a little weird because if you're watching this on YouTube, and make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Doc Talk Sports on YouTube.
Hey, Tom, you're on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah, you're going to be on YouTube, Tom, just to let you know. Look at that. Tom's got a shirt out there that says, "Fuck Tom Shatel." I like that.
I love it.
I think I might want to get that.
Who's on
it's Bo Pelini is the C. I like that. Where did you get that?
BBB Printing, the man himself in Lincoln, came up with that shirt right after Bo had his tantrum.
Yeah,
and it got released by somebody in the athletic department who didn't like Bo. It ran for the UCLA loss in like 13 or 12. I don't know what the year that was, but that thing was released. It was on all the websites, everybody, national shows. So this guy came up with the shirt.
The interwebs.
And I...
Do you own one?
Oh, several. my wife has one. All my golf buddies wanted one. And
it's a badge of honor when somebody makes a shirt that says "fuck you" on it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it really does.
I think the closest we've gotten is when I got called a bum, and we did a bum T-shirt.
But back to the Pipeline podcast, I didn't think they would appreciate, the Kansas, the Iowa State, the Iowa, and the Creighton stuff. So I just went ahead, and Owen and I got together. We said, let's move the curtain back. Let's make it all black. We put the Pipeline logo up here.
Much appreciative, by the way.
We've got some accent lights and made it look pretty good. It's only going to get better. But the first 3 episodes of the original Pipeline podcast will be coming out soon. And you guys did a big event up in Norfolk, raised some good money. And let's talk about that real quick because you guys are raising money for NIL, specifically for the offensive line. Correct?
And that's our biggest goal with this is that we kind of got together. So we do have a website. It's called theoriginalpipeline.com. And so our ultimate goal is to raise, a pile of cash and start funneling it into NIL for these kids. When you look at the recruiting world right now, when you look at the portal, that's where the shift has gone towards NIL. And I mean, it's a major player in terms of getting kids to go to a particular school. There is a business aspect to it now. You can hate it, you can love it, you can be indifferent to it, but it is what it is. That's the reality of it. And our thought process was, we've always sat around and thought about, hey, how can we help out? How can we make a difference in terms of getting Nebraska back to what we want it to be able to have the players down there have a similar experience to what we had in terms of winning those games, having those championships, things like that. And so all of a sudden the transfer portal and NIL pops up, and it was kind of this little light bulb went off of, hey, if we can work this angle a little bit to raise some money for NIL, funnel it towards the offensive line, it doesn't have to be massive amount of dollars. And here's the thing, we're not thinking we're going to be setting up kids with $100,000 payments. But if you've got a kid who's a preferred walk-on that we can somehow maybe, let's get this kid who's kind of like the swing guy, like a Matt Hoskinson, who was originally a walk-on from Battle Creek and went on to become an alternate starter. How can we take a guy like that and let's get him on some kind of scholarship? That's kind of the goal.
Tom, I could be wrong here, but this is a pretty good article for you right here. The five guys coming back together to raise money for NIL.
I don't know if Tom knows anybody could interview for it.
I don't know.
I mean, that's the crazy thing. So.
Well, none of you guys like to talk. I know. I'm
not at all.
I'm sorry.
Four of them like to show up. One doesn't like to show up, and I'm just giving Zach a hard time because
Varsity Club. I went to that event, and you guys had a blast.
We had a great. Zach was at that one, so we did another one up in Norfolk. Not last weekend, but the week. Well. Or was that last weekend? Time's kind of flying.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago up in Norfolk. Great turnout. I love Norfolk. From an athletic standpoint, Norfolk, Wayne, Pierce, Battle Creek, Elkhorn Valley. You got a great group of high school and college kids up there. Had an amazing turnout. We met some really, really great people, and we raised some money. And that's a good thing. And so I think we're moving in a really good direction with that. So we did do it again. We're going to try and do another one tentatively mid-October in Columbus. So don't have a date and location locked in hardcore yet, but it's something we're working on mid-October, Columbus, to try and do another one.
Now, before every Nebraska fan freaks out, I was never going to be a part of the podcast, and I ended up being a part of the podcast.
Because we love you, because you're a giant Husker fan.
It was funny because I'm like, guys, do you realize if I'm on this podcast, you're going to get shit from Husker fans because they don't like me, because I'm not, a fan.
You're an Iowa guy.
I'm an Iowa guy, but you guys were really nice to me. I think it all went pretty good, which was
Well, I
good.
thought it went out.
Yeah.
You know what? I thought we had some really great content. When we get them posted, we'll get them posted to the website, and it's, you know what? You got some stories, you got some kind of, this is kind of the preliminary stuff, but it kind of goes into the why of why we're doing this.
And then we'll get into even more stories as we do more of them. Before we get started with today's podcast, just a reminder, download the Betfred Sports Iowa app or Betfred Sports Colorado app, or check and see if Betfred Sports is available in the state that you live in. Right now.
Do you know where it's not available, Travis?
In Nebraska, because Nebraska's backwards.
Nebraska. Only a bit.
All they have
kind
to
of
do,
a good solid medium amount.
But you can go to a casino in Lincoln and sports wager. But heaven forbid if you do it on your phone like normal people do it.
Small children die when you do that, Travis.
Heaven forbid if you were able to place a bet on Nebraska or Creighton when they're playing at home.
You do it on your phone.
Yes, I do it on my phone, but I have to drive to the strip club to do it.
It kills puppies when you do it on your phone.
Is that right?
You do it in person at the actual sports book.
Yeah.
Puppies live.
Oh, is that what it is? Is that what it is?
You do it on your phone, puppies die.
Well, if you live close to Colorado, or if you live close to Iowa,
or a strip club in Iowa,
or a strip club in Iowa,
does all his betting.
Download the Betfred Sports Iowa app, and when you place your first wager with Betfred of $50 or more, you immediately get $111 in Fred bets with 50% back on your losses, up to $200 weekly for the first 5 weeks of betting with Fred. Along with the most loyal welcome offer in the business, Betfred offers the best player experience of any book around. When you need help at Betfred, there's a real person to talk to you quickly. And you can actually see Betfred Sports billboards in Omaha heading east or west rather on I-80. I think one coming into downtown.
I see him. I've seen the downtown one.
Now,
so.
people may think we're drinking orange juice. This is not orange juice.
It's a mimosa.
We have been getting loads, and I mean, it's like Smokey and the Bandit delivery at MCL Construction right now. We get daily beer deliveries. Just want to let Craig in Atlanta know. I forget his name in Arkansas. What's his name? He works at Prairie Meadows. I apologize, but it's escaped me.
Why do you hate our fans?
I don't. I get ahead of myself. But this is Corn Coast.
Yeah, which out of Lincoln.
Yes.
Have you been there?
No, but
I've been there. You know, it's nothing crazy if you get there. It's this great little location. It's kind of southwest Lincoln as you're kind of heading on 77 south out of Lincoln. They got a great little tap room. If you get a chance, go hit it up. They got food trucks there during the day, during the evening. Man, they've got some great products.
So I'm drinking the Tangerine Trampoline right now.
That's what I'm having right now.
It's a fruited. It looks like orange juice. Tastes like it almost tastes like there's some champagne in it or something. But
you could drink this at work.
It's a mimosa, right? But it's 6.2% alcohol. We've got some other ones to drink as well. We'll let you know what those are. But Corn Coast is our
Wait, so where did we get the Corn Coast from?
They just dropped it off at work.
Corn Coast did?
Yeah. They're like,
God bless them.
I'm serious. I have daily deliveries of beer at my my place of estate.
Yeah, but now we've got actual breweries doing it. And I have been there a handful of times. Yeah. We've got some ties in Fairbury, Nebraska, and so when we're meeting up with our friends from Fairbury, Corn Coast,
nice.
We stop by. It's sort of like it's not quite, but almost the halfway point. Not even close to that, really. But that's where we always meet up with our Fairbury folks. Is right there at Corn Coast. So, but anyway, if you're remotely in the Lincoln area, check it out.
Yeah.
Their tap room's a great spot. So,
he just celebrated his 25th wedding anniversary. I believe he's starting his 30+ year at the Omaha World Herald. You're like the only one left.
There's Stu.
Is he still writing about the Benson Bunnies all the time? Stu Pospisil, the only high school beat writer left.
Stu's still pissed about the whole wrestlers doing backflips.
I don't want to give you that much shit about the newspaper, but God, it's depleted.
It's 2023, and we're still here. I'm happy to be writing. I'm happy to have a job and to do what I love, which is August college football, my favorite time of year. So, yeah, it's all good.
Good. Well, I've been talking to you for a long time about coming on the podcast. I'm glad we were able to make it. Mm-hmm. You were just at Big Ten Media Days. I want to get to that in a little bit, but I want to start with Bud Crawford because we're recording this the day after Bud Crawford unified the welterweight belt.
Dismantled.
Now, to me, the welterweight division is the greatest division of all time. I'm a Sugar Ray Leonard guy.
Hagler.
And Hearns.
Hagler kicked the shit out of Leonard. That wasn't even close.
Listen,
he got robbed.
You're talking about some of the most classic fights in the division that you've ever seen with those guys.
I'm still pissed about it. It's 30 years
but
later.
I'm gonna put Tom on the spot here. Is Bud Crawford now the most decorated athlete ever to come out of Omaha? Because what he did is amazing. It
would be interesting because you know how the World Herald does that top 100 athletes out of Nebraska, correct? Which, by the way, I'm going to say thank you because every year that the World Herald does that, which is like once every 9 years, somehow I end up in the honorable mention section. I'm like, how the hell did I end up as the honorable mention in this? I'm not. Oh wait, I know Tom. There we go. Anyway, thank you for that. But it's the last time that the World Herald did their top 100 athletes from the state of Nebraska of all time, I'm not sure Crawford was
even on the list.
He was maybe kind of he was on the scene. He was breaking in. He'd won some bouts. I think he had probably already gotten his first title the last time it came out. But
Travis, it's all relative. He's on the Mount Rushmore. Okay.
Okay.
Given, right?
Yep.
Understood. But Bob Gibbs, three World Series. He won 2.
And if he would have been a boxer, he would have kicked somebody's ass.
Well,
dude, the guy was
the baseball as
the guy was all
glove.
world in 5 sports.
But I mean, I looked it up in a 64 World Series. He pitched 3 times. He pitched Game 7 on 2 days rest against Manuel Maris, and they won. I mean, he was a Harlem Globetrotter. I mean, how do you put that against boxing? And then
I mean, if
Johnny Rogers, a Heisman Trophy.
Let me ask you. Okay,
I would argue that's bigger than boxing. But I'm a college football guy.
Let me ask you a question. What's your, right now as we sit, what's your Rushmore? So let's say top 4.
Of Omaha.
Let's say just Omaha.
I mean, you could do a
not Nebraska. Not Nebraska. Not Nebraska. Let's do Omaha.
Well, I think
Bud, Johnny, Gibson.
Bob Boozer?
I say Boozer because he won an NBA championship.
Yeah, I'd go Boozer.
And Olympic gold medal. So I think those are your 4.
You know, the interesting thing is, and you said something that was very important, and I'm not diminishing. I think because I grew up with Sugar Ray and Hearns and Hagler, and even Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes, Tyson, even in his high day, I appreciate boxing more than probably most people. But on my radio station in Des Moines, I did a poll. How many people knew the name Terrence Bud Crawford? It was only like 10%.
Like crickets chirping.
It was crickets. But it's not a Bud Crawford thing. It's a boxing problem.
We grew up in an era where boxing was on the cover of SI every week, every major fight, before and after. I mean, these guys were like the SI Sportsman of the Year. When there was a major fight, everything stopped in the whole country. But you had to watch that fight, and hasn't been that way for a long time. No. That's boxing's fault. They should have had this fight a year or 2 ago, but they get in their own way.
But Tom, let me ask you a question. The era that Travis that you just referenced, I mean, that's my era too.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
I mean.
And I
you're like, dude, you're like super old, dude.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
but I remember being
it was hold on. The point I was going to make here is that when I look back to that era, all these divisions, I mean, it was just rife with compelling people, compelling boxers.
It was so.
I mean, you looked at the welterweights, and it's like. You just rattled it off. I mean, Leonard and Duran and Hagler and these just monster fights anytime these guys got together.
What happened to the heavyweights?
I could not tell you who the heavyweight champion of the world is today.
That was a big deal. I mean, the 80s were the Hagler guys. 70s, Ali and Frazier. Holy shit.
Holmes.
Spinks.
Leon Spinks, Michael Spinks.
Dude, I was a huge Michael Spinks fan. And then, God, they just got destroyed. I mean, Tyson came in and kind of destroyed them. Holyfield was amazing, though.
I said before, I'm not saying boxing doesn't matter now, but it doesn't matter as much.
But you don't have the compelling athletes.
Wouldn't you love to put Crawford in UFC? I went to watch the fight at Clancy's last night, and they usually have the UFC. Now this crowd was much bigger than what they've had for UFC. But UFC is a regular deal people are into. It's arguably taking boxing's spot in a lot of ways for some people.
You're saying there's been a dilution.
But for a number of reasons, because Tom brought it up. You have different promoters. Bud had to become a free agent in the promotion market just to get this fight.
Ridiculous.
I mean, it's like boxing can't get it out of its own way because you have these rival factions, and with UFC, Dana White makes everybody if you're the best, you're fighting for a title. And I logged on to ESPN.
What boxing used to be.
Yeah, I logged on to ESPN.com this morning. You know what the banner was? Wasn't the boxing? It was UFC. Yeah. It was the fight last night.
It's a sign of the time. Wouldn't you love to put Bud in a time machine and take him back to 84, 85, 86?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Against those guys?
Yes.
We could argue what would happen.
He'd be a superstar, which he kind of is now a little bit. But, I mean, the guy would be...
I think...
He would be on the tip of the tongue for people nationally.
He's so good that... He made Spence look like he didn't belong. And then you're trying to process this fight. How good, maybe Spence isn't that good. And of course he's good, but how good is he? And how much
Every time anybody...
How much of an accomplishment was that? Because he kicked his butt. So it wasn't really a great fight.
It wasn't even close. So, I mean, if you're a
that's how good Crawford is.
If you're a Crawford guy, that was a great fight.
Excuse the perspective of how good he is because he's so good. So
he's going to fight him again because Spence has an automatic.
And it's probably going to be December.
Yeah,
because I said put it in Memorial Stadium, right? But it'll be in Vegas. Trust me. But wouldn't that be cool to have it in the stadium? But you can't do it in December.
No.
But it apparently has to be before the end of the year.
Oh, is that what it is?
Oh, really? So they got a rematch before the calendar year?
5 or 6 months.
Wow.
And he'll kick his butt again. So, and that'll be the end of it. And then there's nobody else to fight. There's really nobody else.
Well, then do you retire? And I mean that you're 35 years old.
He said as much.
You still have your brain.
He said as much, Travis. He said, I believe it was last year. He said, "I'm not going to be one of those guys. I'm not going to do it. I'll be out of here." But
because he got his payday last night.
Now here's the other.
He's gone up and down weight classes trying to find people.
Well,
there's nobody.
And here's the other
He's the
thing.
guy.
I mean, so one of the arguments a lot of the Spence fans had, and I mean, I kind of got in a Twitter discussion today about this, was that all the Spence fans were like, well, he should have been fighting at 154. He had to cut to welterweight, which I think the cutoff was, 147?
Yes,
right around there. So all the Spence people are like, well, Spence is a 154 guy. We go up to 154. Spence has this like every day of the week. And most of the boxing people I've kind of touched base with since. I mean, we're all like, yeah, no. Crawford kicks his ass at 154 as well, too. But that's my question is, does Crawford... Because Crawford initially weighed in, I think they said it was like 1.2 pounds over, had to go run it off, come back, and officially weigh in again to be able to make weight. And he dropped the 1.2. It was like 146.8, so he made the cutoff. But to see, it almost seems like he could bump up to that next weight class and be very comfortable there.
You know, I've seen... I'm not the biggest boxing fan, but what I've seen over the years, I've seen smart and I've seen mean. He has both. And he starts off very patient and he's tactical. He starts coming and he just keeps coming and he's got this mean streak to tell he's after you. And over boxing history, I think that's pretty rare.
His calculation in terms of punch and counter punch, his timing is
he comes after you. He got the left and the right.
He does, but his timing is always amazing to me because you look at you go back to the point the TKO point there in the 9th round. Spence throws a punch, Crawford blocks it. And I mean, I don't know what the time frame is, but in a millisecond, that hand that blocked Spence's punch is already coming around and connects with the punch that basically staggers him and ends the fight. Crawford landed, I think it was like 3 or 4 more punches right after that, but it was the ability to block, time it, and return that punch with the counter that was just mind-blowing to me. And all I could think is just somebody who has that level of intelligence and timing in a fight. God, it doesn't matter if your opponent puts 7 more pounds on and you follow him up to the next weight class. It's not going to make a difference.
You see Crawford's quote today? I was reading some of the stories.
I did not.
He said apparently Spence got him with one early in the fight, like 2nd round. You got him with the head or something, and Bud said, I thought, well, is that all you got? If that's all you got, this fight's over.
It's going to be a long night.
I said, it's going to be a long night.
Which I've seen Crawford take punches before.
Well, they said Crawford only lost on the scorecard. Crawford lost the first round, but won every round after that. And it was just, and he put him down twice before the 9th.
That's how he starts.
Yeah.
3 times.
Yeah.
3 knockdowns.
Anyway, it's
well, the interesting part is I'll give Bud this, and I remember when Bud fought in the Golden Gloves. I don't think he won that here in Omaha, but you knew the potential that he was going to have. This was back when he was a teenager. He is so loyal to Omaha, Creighton, and the University of Nebraska.
Mind-blowingly loyal.
Creighton and Nebraska. Trev Albert should be writing him a check. I really and Creighton should be writing him a check.
That's why he's so popular.
The city of Omaha should be writing him a check because he does more.
The guy reps the brand.
He reps the brand, and he doesn't have to, but his loyalty is noble. It really is.
And what I like about him, along with the other North Omaha legends, is that they give back to the community so much. They all did. Bob Gibson did. Johnny, Marlon Briscoe, Boozer. They all, Sayer. They all gave back, and I don't know. It's would you put Sayers on that Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, you kind of have to. We'll make it a 5th spot.
Okay. Yeah, why does that have to be 4? Why can't it be 5?
We'll take the entire Teton Mountain Range and put as many faces on it as we want.
I'm still going to go with number 1 overall. I got to go with Bob Gibson.
Listen,
still got to go.
Listen, I do a daily show in Des Moines on KXNO. I couldn't tell you that many good Des Moines athletes. I always had good athletes. I'm not saying that, especially from the basketball end of it. But the caliber we just laid off.
Yeah, Jack Trice. Trice was good.
Yeah, Niall Kinnick wasn't bad either, right?
He's from Omaha.
And he was here.
He's from Omaha.
He's from Adel. He's from Adel. Don't let him fool you.
Anyway,
grew up in
you know what I mean.
Omaha.
I mean, the people we just talked about in Omaha. That's incredible.
And what's incredible, Travis, is the 60 years later. See, the majority of those guys were 1960s.
Yeah.
60 years later, another guy comes along. The legacy
continues.
Yeah.
Wow. Absolutely incredible. Hey, when you need legal help, make sure to check out Orr and Horrigan, the Omaha law firm. Connor Orr, a regular guest on the Doc Talk podcast presented by Betfred Sports. Connor, of course, a sports agent and an NIL expert. He was on a couple episodes ago. Go check out that episode. But when you need legal help, schedule a call at 402-408-6488 or go to orrhorrigan.com. Or you can also drop an email at contact@orrhorrigan.com. Again, the law firm that officially is a sponsor of the Doc Talk podcast. Were you in Indianapolis?
Yeah.
What'd you think of it? I hate media days anymore. I think they're boring. Listen, we were just talking, our gifts. I still have the original Big 12 media days. I remember the last Big 8 media days where I took Rick Neuheisel and Dave Platty out for dinner. This is the weirdest story in the world.
Who's Dave Platty?
Dave Platty was their sports information director. Okay,
at Colorado.
So
great. Yes, I did.
He was a good dude. I'll never forget this. I'm at Fox 42 at the time. We just get done with the interview session, and we're walking out of the plaza. I think we're at the Crown or something like that. And there's Platty and Neuheisel. I just got an interview. And they're like, "Hey, do you want to go to dinner with us?" And at that point, you're like, "Okay, yeah, sure." So we go to the Plaza 3, right? I had no idea what a la carte was back then. Well, Neuheisel and Platty start ordering just bottles of wine. And so I'm like, okay, sure, we'll split. The bill comes. He's like, well, we'll split it. Well, all Fox 42 gave me was $150 of petty cash.
Oh, shit.
The bill's $780. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. Luckily, I had my first ever Discover card. And I realized that my baked potato cost me $13. My green beans were separate, but it was a great conversation with Dave Platty and Rick Neuheisel, and I still have a lot of respect.
And you realized how cheap Fox 42 is.
Absolutely cheap asses, very much so.
Some things have not changed.
But I just think as social media and year-round reporting has evolved, that media days have become pointless because you have access to these guys almost all the time now.
They're like the summer magazines have all gone away.
Yeah, which
used to be the big deal.
I lived and died for those as a kid. I mean, the Athlons, the Lindy's, the
Phil
Sporting News.
still puts one out, but that's more of a gambling magazine than anything.
Yes.
But it was then too. But I mean, if you wanted in-depth stats on everything, Phil Steele. But the old Big 8 Skyriders tour.
Well,
that was awesome.
Let me talk. The highlight of this thing was the TV interviews. We got there, and there was the first day because they've got CBS, NBC, and Fox all together now. First day there was a CBS breakfast. They actually had food. It was cool. And but I went, and they had New Heisel at a table, and then they Gary Daniels, and they were fantastic. I went right to New Heisel because I listened to his radio show every day. I love his show. It's on Sirius XM. The host is just a wild man. The show pony, Chris Childers, but Childers and New Heisel, they aren't in the same room. They're in their houses doing the radio show together. But New Heisel, I said, yeah, I remember you from Colorado. And he goes, oh, yeah, because those were the days when I wore the little spinny hat and everybody called me Skippy. So he was great. and he said, and I said, I remember your first media days in Kansas City, 95.
Yep.
I said, we had a little hospitality room for the writers, and you came out and you hung out in the room with us, and you talked all night. I thought that was, for a coach to do that, couldn't happen ever again. Couldn't happen now. But he was great talking about, you know how he got the job, and McCartney telling the staff the last day of the 94 season that he was going to retire, and what a shock that was, and how he told him. But I didn't ask him about the Amon Green play. Amon Green was there. I said, we need to get these two together to talk about that first play of the 95
Hold on. Amon was in Indianapolis?
Yeah.
I was going to say there was tons of photos of him on the internet there.
He's got a radio show.
Okay.
And he's part of the tickets army of the former Huskers from the 90s.
And you had a nice article about the ticket, last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago?
I like the former guys always talking, but to me, the intriguing thing about that is the current Huskers of all sports all have shows on that station. Not every one of them, obviously, but a lot of them do, from golfers to volleyball to softball to baseball to so on and so forth. And the Sam Hoiberg has one of the best shows, and he has his mom on all the time. But it's just like it's cool to have a radio show with where the athletes are in charge, because you get to hear about all the stuff. So that's different. But media days kind of suck. I mean, they
do.
And frankly, because of what you said, and they have them on stage and that podium, and they never say anything except Rule. Of course, he was incredible. But
well, hold on. Let's pause for a second here. What is it that you like about Rule? And I'm not saying as a coach, but I'm saying this in the sense of when you said, like, God, Rule was incredible. What do you mean by that? What did you like?
It gives you
about
stuff
him?
You can use.
Give me a for instance.
The quotes. I mean, I typed them out. I got this giant page of just quotes and about football stuff.
He understands the narrative, and what I mean by that is, Kirk Ferentz is boring, and he's boring on purpose. No, Kirk Ferentz is really.
So is Tom.
Well,
those two guys did not want to be in the newspaper.
This is going to make Iowa fans or Nebraska fans really mad. Kirk Ferentz reminded me more of Tom Osborne each and every day, and just an elder statesman. He walks in the room, he has that presence, but he's fucking boring as hell. But he's smart as hell.
Tom would read the depth chart. 20 minutes in. Oh, I guess we're done. Thanks. And we'd say, no, we got questions. Oh, no, time's up. Sorry. That was always on purpose. It was brilliant.
Calculated.
But would you agree with that?
Yes.
My assessment of Ferentz and Osborne, they're very similar.
Travis, what I like about it goes back to the Big 8 Scout Writers Tour. Big 8 is, the Big 10 is just, I've been in this thing 12 years. I met one writer, maybe two. I met one SID in 12 years.
Shut up.
They don't want to talk to you. They ignore you. They want nothing to do with you. They're like their own club. They talk to their own people. Yeah, and in fact, half the press boxes in the Big Ten are like side by side. They're like these double-decker press boxes. One side is for home media. The other side is for the visitors. And neither one interacts. You go to your side and you stay there. It's just like you never meet anybody else in the league.
That's dumb. That's
the Big Ten.
Wow.
And so I just don't.
Like across the board.
And the Big Eight, everybody knew everybody. It was like a giant neighborhood. The SEC is that way. When they come to the College World Series, I know all the SIDs. I know all the writers. That's to me. That's why I love the job.
Why is it
fun
like
to be in
that?
the press box, huh?
The Big Ten's always been arrogant.
Oh yeah, it's a closed club. They want nothing to do with anybody. But now that's why I kind of like, okay, USC's coming in, UCLA. We've had little Rutgers, and now watch out for the ACC.
Florida State,
yeah, Miami, Florida State might come in. You never know who else. So I like the national, and now I thought Oregon, Washington, no way. Looks like they're probably coming too.
Hold on, okay. So let's back up.
This whole thing's fascinating.
So let's back up. So last week, Colorado announces it's going to go back to the Big 12. It was a splash, but not as big as when USC and UCLA came to the Big 10. Not as big as when Oklahoma and Texas went to the SEC.
I don't know if anybody was surprised by Colorado's
it's been
move.
talked about, but I think everybody's intrigued about what's going to follow. That's what everybody's intrigued. Everybody's like, Colorado, fine, whatever, go back to where you belong. But everybody's curious about what's following here.
But once UCLA and USC were gone, you lose Colorado, and all of a sudden you're sitting here going like, two anchor schools are gone. Now Colorado's leaving,
but it's not.
And
Colorado.
Then, but I think there's.
What's after that?
No,
Yes.
and I get that, but I think there was kind of this. I don't know if point of no return's the right way to put it, or there's a point where you had a ball at the top of a hill, and when USC and UCLA left, that was like the last little wedge under the ball that was keeping that ball from rolling down the hill. And Colorado might have been the last little blade of grass that got pulled out. Now that ball's going, and these other schools are going to be like, you know what? Screw it. Like Larry Scott made some decisions, which actually at the time, he's been kind of getting tossed to the hounds here from a reputation standpoint for his decision making freaking 10, 12 years ago. But at this point now, everybody's sitting here going like, okay, you know what? Screw it. The Pac-12 is done. Let's get the hell out of Dodge and find whatever let's get our piece of the pie now. But I think Colorado leaving was that moment somebody else left after USC and UCLA, it was going to start a floodgate open.
Listen, they did it to themselves by not getting a media rights deal. I mean, all these presidents have waited for a media rights deal, and they've left them no choice.
They could have held it together last summer, but they were in shock. USC leaving, it was like Ohio State leaving the Big Ten or Alabama leaving the SEC. It's just one of those things. It's all about them.
And UCLA was not going to be left out of that deal. No way.
No,
But how does that, when you talk about that shock, Tom, how does that shock how is that not a kick in the pants for everybody else? Because when I see something like that happening, if I'm if I'm a high up administrator, if I'm on the board of regents, if I'm a president, if I'm a chancellor in a conference like the Pac-10, Pac-12, and I see USC and UCLA leave, while that's a shock, the movement that ought to be driving me in, I would think would be, I need to get on the horn and I got to figure out. I got to figure out how to work a deal for my school, and I better do this fast.
You got to understand though, back to the West Coast. I'm from San Diego. I go there every year. The West Coast is different. They don't give a crap. We'll do it tomorrow. That's the whole attitude. Now, USC is different. USC is wired like all the big schools in the country are. But
they want titles and Heismans.
But the Pac-12, they're arrogant. They're stuffy. They want nothing to do with any of the Big 12 schools. They don't measure up to our standards of academics. They don't get college sports. They don't care as much about college football on the West Coast. So you didn't have the urgency, number one. Then you had a commissioner who, well, I'm gonna show everybody. I'm gonna wait. We're not gonna sign right now. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna make all the networks wait, and then we'll get it going. And the Big 12 hired a guy, and he went in right away and got all the money. And he took the money and he put them up behind the 8 ball. No, there wasn't as much money. Now ESPN wasn't in a hurry to do anything. They kind of screwed themselves. So they could have had it done last year, where they could have held it together. I still think they could get San Diego State to replace Colorado. But the problem now is, and I really thought that the Big Ten didn't want Oregon, Washington. Well, what we wanted the LAs, or the LA schools didn't want Oregon and Washington in, so they blocked them, whatever. Now I think it's the Big Ten has said, we don't want to be blamed for making up the Pac-12, so we're just going to hold off and wait for the Pac-12 to blow up. Then we'll come in and get Oregon and Washington. I think that's what's going to happen. And I think Colorado, when they left the Big 12 in 2010, nobody cared. Nobody even noticed. And it's kind of the same thing now, but they're going to cause the whole thing, because I think you've got Arizona sitting there going, well, we're not in a hurry to get this media rights thing, because if it blows up, we're going to the Big 12. I think Oregon and Washington are kind of playing the same dance, playing the same game. We're not in a hurry to do anything, because if it blows up, we're going somewhere good. It's the schools that have nowhere to go. So
it's your Montana State.
No, it's your Washington State.
I'm sorry,
your Oregon State.
Oregon,
I just said Montana State.
Yeah.
Didn't I? Washington State.
They're 1AA.
They're screwed.
That is true.
They're screwed. So
Yeah.
Is Stanford screwed?
Stanford and Cal are kind of the interesting ones.
I keep thinking the Big Ten would. Stanford maybe helps them get Notre Dame down the road, and Stanford is a Big Ten type arrogant academic, whatever. It is also San Francisco market. I think you could. I don't know if you want Cal, but you simply want Stanford. But do you want Arizona State? They don't draw anybody for their games, but that market's a big market.
I think they think that even though it's Tucson, that they could get the Phoenix market with the Arizona, and that may be a thinking.
Wait, Big 12 or Big 10?
The Big 12. The Big 12 believes that if they got Arizona, they would capture the Phoenix market. Which
would the Big 10 ever want that?
No,
I don't know, but to me that their attendance is a problem. But in the old Fiesta Bowl, where I know you've been. But I think there's so many Big Ten alumni down there. It'd be like a Chargers game where you have a Chargers game and the stadium's full because all the opponents' fans from Green Bay or Kansas City are there because
they've all retired
Chicago.
there.
They all live there and they're going to see their team. So maybe you'd have a deal where the ASU games would be sold out because all the Big Ten alumni would go.
There's a lot of Arizonans for Nebraska alumni groups.
I think you're also going to get the ACC. Yeah. Apparently, Florida State right now is in the process of trying to leave, and they have the grant of rights with ESPN through 2036.
It's the worst deal ever. The Big 12, Big 10, SEC will all renegotiate again before that thing expires.
But I think if you have more than one challenge, it could be interesting. It could be really interesting.
Well, then you're looking at Miami, you're looking at Clemson, you're looking at Florida State.
And then if that breaks up, then all of a sudden Notre Dame has been kind of leaning on the ACC. When the ACC is no longer in the ACC, maybe Notre Dame has to figure something out. Maybe they don't. But it's all a chess game.
But at this point, I mean, you look at Notre Dame's schedule year in and year out. Half the damn schedule is Big Ten.
No, it's eight. They have to do 8 ACC games a year.
I shouldn't say half, but I mean, when you look at classic rivals for Notre Dame, it's Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that a lot of people care about Purdue, but
well, let's see how their schedule shapes up when the 12-team playoff starts, and maybe they aren't getting in.
Okay. So right now, when you look at Notre Dame, classic rivals for Notre Dame: Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, USC.
So this year,
there's 1/3 of their schedule right there alone.
They're not playing USC this year. They've got Ohio State on the schedule.
They let Notre Dame.
Yeah,
they are not playing USC.
No, they've got Navy, Tennessee State, NC State, Central Michigan, Ohio State, Duke, Louisville, the USC, Pittsburgh.
I thought they played USC.
Yeah, they do.
Year.
They do October 14th. Then Clemson, Wake Forest, and Stanford. That's a bitch of a schedule.
What?
What do you
Read
mean?
that. Okay, go slowly, one at a time.
Navy,
bullshit.
Tennessee State.
What the hell?
NC State. Pretty good last year.
John Garrison's left.
Central Michigan.
Come on.
Ohio State.
Pretty damn good.
Duke.
Seriously.
Duke's not bad.
But that's,
Yeah, are you quaking in your boots about the Duke?
Louisville.
Decent.
USC.
They're okay.
USC.
Yes.
Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Clemson.
Yes.
Wake was good last year.
But they're not Clemson or USC.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad opponent. I mean,
it's a 4-game schedule.
Yeah.
But it's part of the ACC deal.
Yes.
Dude,
and then Stanford in the year.
Dude, give me the. I mean, it's a 4-game schedule. It's Ohio. I mean,
come on,
where's Michigan?
They're not there. Ohio.
No
State's
shit,
there.
they're not there.
I think it's a good schedule.
It's Ohio State and Clemson.
I think it's a good schedule. It's a good schedule.
If they were in the Big Ten, the money it would bring to both the Big Ten and Notre Dame, the fact that those two entities haven't worked this deal is mind-blowing.
So next year, let's go to next year for Nebraska. Home for Nebraska next year: Indiana, Michigan State, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Away: Iowa, Northwestern, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA. 2025, home: Illinois, Iowa, Michigan, Rutgers, UCLA. Away: Maryland, Minnesota, Ohio State, and USC.
Yeah,
that's fun.
It is.
Now,
see, I mean, I made a tweet about, like, I like the whole idea that, like, week in and week out feels like you're going to a damn bowl game. It's like, oh, we're playing UCLA. Oh, we're playing USC. Dude, this is cool. I like it.
Now, it is cool.
Plus, I love chaos, so.
What if, we seem to be heading in this direction. Big Ten has 16. Add Oregon, Washington, 18. Maybe a couple more. Anyway, they get to I-24.
They're counting Florida State, Miami.
They get, an ACC.
Okay.
And then someone's Carolina goes to the SEC. Maybe, and then you might see Clemson go to the SEC. What if the Big Ten and the SEC become the Power 2, which people expect?
I've said this for a long time. I think the NCAA in the case goes away, and these guys run their own operations.
Which I agree, but it's easier to say that and harder to do. Because they don't want to run that; they want somebody else to run it.
Yeah, they like not having to deal with the bureaucracy. Right. There is bureaucracy that goes
How
on.
much bureaucry is there really at this point?
I think there's a lot.
But I think if you're talking about a Power 2 who have their own playoff. I mean, it essentially becomes the NFL.
But I mean, how much is
Would
handled?
you like that?
So,
yes.
Tom, let me ask you this: when you look at the conference organizational structure versus the NC2A organizational structure, anymore, how much is the NC2A doing versus the conference? Because I look at this and I think, I mean, you've already got. Again, from a bureaucratic standpoint, you've already got this conference.
But they like it from the other. They don't football. They can handle their own. What they don't want to deal with is
basketball,
trap shooting, basketball,
wrestling,
bowling,
track and field.
Yeah, they don't want to deal with that.
I totally get it, but you leave that to the NC2A, and
I
mean, you've already got the college football playoff, which is not an NC2A institution.
So what we have now is Division Superior, Division 1, Division 1 AA, and then Division 2, Division 3, right? Is that what you're talking? Essentially, that's what you're saying.
You let the SEC and Big Ten have their own division, whatever you want to call it, the soccer levels, whatever, and they come out there with their own rules where they are going to pay players. They have more money than anybody. They're both going to get $80 to $100 million a school. They can pay players. Nobody else can do that. Iowa State can't do that.
Doug Ewald has sat right where you're sitting right now, CFO for Husker Athletics, and said, eventually, this is all going in-house. He said it on this podcast. Yeah. It's all going in-house. Exactly what you're saying right there. They can pay the players.
Nobody else can.
No.
So you have your own rules. You can recruit, but you can't. The recruiting's not equal anymore. So, not that it's very equal now, but I'm just saying, it's if you're paying players and nobody else can, it's you have no chance against those schools. So you put those two conferences in one giant division and let them be the NFL, where they just play each other every week. There might be rematches, there might not, but we seem to like the NFL, right? Where it's over like 4 or 5 months, they play a game every week, and they have playoffs, and they have a Super Bowl champion. That will be like that in college football. And then I love this. I think it was Bruce Rasmussen who first told me about this idea. I said, sign me up. Where football, you put them over here, they do have their own rules, they do their own thing, their own playoff. Then everybody else, basketball on down, goes back to the Big 8, goes back to the Southwest Conference, goes back to the Big 10 with 10, goes back to the Big East, the this, the that, the Pac-8. You basically, the basketball on down gets back on a bus where they belong and drives the games.
Damn.
And baseball, same thing. And Creighton, where do they fit? They probably still be in the Big East. They're not getting on a bus, though, unfortunately. But
they're not.
They're not. But I mean, they'd have to figure out if the Big East would then keep them or not. I'm sure they would, but they wouldn't be on a bus. They'd, but for Creighton baseball would want to be in the Valley or the Big 12 or the Big 8. They wouldn't want to be in the Big East, but the basketball would. I don't know about volleyball. I don't know how that would work, but I'm just saying, if you're an old school guy like me, Nebraska basketball is going to be back in the Big 8 playing KU, and sign me up all day long for that. And
but that's why you wear the Big 8 shirt, because and your daughter's going to KU, right?
That's why it's
blue. I went with the blue.
I'm going to wear this to
shirt.
I'm going to wear this to the KU games.
Look at Rock Chalk. My son went to KU.
I need your advice.
Owen dropped out, but he's smarter than all of us in his room. Well, and he's not smarter than you.
I don't know about that. I have questions.
Owen's smart.
The kid thinks about stuff.
He does.
So Tom, here's my question: when you look at these scenarios that we're talking about, where you're maybe splitting off football, I mean, kind of the basic thing that you're saying is splitting off football to be its own entity, whatever. It's gonna go do its own thing. Everybody else comes back to college sports. Travis, you and I have talked about the dollars and cents of this, especially when it relates to the television contracts. Yeah. Who's actually watching stuff? And the thing that was very interesting about it was, compared to football, how few of eyes are actually drawn to, say, college basketball. I mean, it's a lot. People love their college basketball. It doesn't remotely approach
football. Pays the bills.
It does. It doesn't remotely approach the eyes that are watching football. So my question is, and this is kind of a question of heart for me, in the sense of, like, as a kid. I mean, you and I were talking earlier about, like, the Big 8 shirts. I was an hour late getting here tonight for the podcast because I couldn't find my green Big 8 conference shirt. Because I'm like, we got Tom on. This is awesome. I'm grabbing my
Always
Big 8.
Always wear your Big 8 shirt.
I'm grabbing my Big 8 shirt. Couldn't find the damn thing. Anyway, so my question is when you look at some of these Big 8 schools like Kansas Jayhawks, Iowa State Cyclones, what happens to them in this conference realignment from a football standpoint, where when you look at these, you're looking at
second tier.
It is, but I mean, I think there's going to be two major conferences. I think the Big 12 is going to be the entity that tries as hard as it can to do the quality through quantity methodology and tries to bring everybody else in. And I see Kansas and Iowa State ending up there.
You do?
Well, yeah. What happens to those schools from a football standpoint?
Here's what I've learned. Tom, you tell me if you think I'm wrong. College football is pretty resilient. It is. And even if this scenario happened where you had basically a 40-team league where they had even that second league, if it was Iowa State, Kansas State, Kansas, Wazoo,
so you've got
Cal,
people, you got your
won't
big
suffer. People, there's still a market for it. Fans will still love it. I don't think college football will suffer if that happens. I really do believe that. Now,
I agree. But when we talk about Power 2, Notre Dame has to be involved in that, right? They would want to be involved in that. They would demand that they're involved in that. That's when they join the Big Ten, probably. But it's again, we love the NFL and college football at the highest level. When you're paying players and you're doing all this stuff for money in the giant stadiums, and you're playing on all CBS, NBC, Fox, it becomes like the NFL. So you just sort of morph into this semi-pro deal, and
that's a pro deal.
But what happens to the Big 12 and the ACC? I don't know if they're included. Maybe they're part of the playoff, but they don't really. Again,
you're talking about this pseudo second tier Big 12 conference. Correct?
It's for people who can't pay players.
I'm going to ask you a pointed question here. Nebraska's passionate. Nebraska has money. Does Nebraska compete in a Super 2 conference?
Oh yeah, I think so. But
you think so?
I mean, they'll be part of the Big Ten. Can they compete at the highest level?
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Absolutely. They used to.
So here's an answer.
A lot's changed since then. A lot has changed since then.
But the biggest thing that's changed is Nebraska forgot how to play football. If Nebraska remembers how to play football, absolutely.
Okay.
So here's my answer to that question, Travis. It doesn't matter. If you're in that conference,
it does. So basically,
you've won.
So basically, Northwestern's won. Right? Northwestern has won by being
Northwestern, Vanderbilt,
Ole Miss. Ole Miss is the smallest school in the SEC.
Yeah. Those schools right now are sitting around going, "Thank God we got into when we did."
What happens if we get to that level and people decide to throw somebody out?
Ooh, there's a word. There's reparations to be paid. We're talking about
it, and you watch. The more they add, the Big Ten becomes less the Big Ten every time they add outsiders.
You're right.
And
they do, but I mean, the common thread throughout all of this is dollar signs.
Well,
and the Big Ten makes amazingly intelligent decisions when it comes to money.
They love money.
And I get the dollar signs thing, but man, over history, their ability to make business decisions has been top tier.
To me, Nebraska makes perfect sense in the Big Ten. It could have stayed in the Big 12, but Nebraska Big Ten makes sense. Penn State is a Big Ten school. Rutgers and Maryland still don't fit culturally, or it's.
I still wonder how that happened, but I understand the stab at getting an East Coast. Sort of that mid-Atlantic state DC TV market.
But that's where we're getting away from the Big Ten being the Big Ten. It becomes a national conference. You're trying to become a national conference.
You throw Washington and Stanford and Oregon in this thing?
Florida State, Miami.
You're not about meat and potatoes and 3 clouds of dust and all that stuff. You're not about that anymore. You're not about Ohio State, Michigan. You're not about the Rose Bowl going away. The Pac-12 goes away. Rose Bowl's going away.
Rose Bowl's done.
It's already done.
Okay, yeah, but here's the thing, though, that if
Big Ten becomes something else.
If you're the Big Ten Conference, though, and you're looking at the long-term survival, it's dollar signs, it's television sets.
Right.
That's how you do it.
Right.
And I think this is the smart. For as hardcore tradition as what the Big Ten likes to represent itself as, the smartest thing I've seen out of all of this is the fact that the Big Ten has sat here going okay, how can we get ourselves as an organization on as many TV sets as we can? And how can we make as much money as we can for our member schools?
Oh, yeah.
And at the college football level, nobody's done a better job of that than the Big Ten.
True.
I mean, I still remember the SEC. I don't know if it's Greg Sankey or not. I think it was Sankey, but somebody with the SEC basically said, hey, our deal's championships. We want to win college football championships. We want to win basketball championships. We want to win baseball championships. We want to win volleyball championships. Well, no, the Big Ten's got that one. But the Big Ten has done, in my opinion, an amazing job of looking at the long-term landscape of where all of this is going.
Absolutely.
And basically saying, hey, at the end of the day, whether we maintain that identity of the old school Bo Schembechler, Woody Hayes, 3 yards in a cloud of dust image, screw that shit. We want to still be there as the number one conference in the nation and have those dollars.
But not everybody's
have the
saying
television
that, Rob.
set.
People in the Big Ten love being the Big Ten, and this is hard. There is a lot of collateral damage to that stuff, and it's. I think Ohio State, Michigan. We had an argument about that last week. I said, if both teams are already in the playoff, that game doesn't mean as much. Now they still want to kill each other, but if they got to play again the next week, it's weird. So,
you know what though? Let's throw Florida State into the mix.
That's what I'm saying.
Norvell's got them playing great football. What happens when Florida State?
You're a Florida State fan.
Little bit. Love my Michigan State Spartans. Anyway, my point is, though, is if Florida State knocks off Michigan late in the season and during a regular season game and knocks them out of contention for a Big Ten title, and all of a sudden the Michigan-Ohio State game becomes... it's a blood feud and nothing else like it was 30 years ago with no impact on the national title.
That's fine.
That's great, and it's fine. And let's see what happens when the Big Ten title comes down to Florida State and Penn State. I'm perfectly fine
you know
with
who
that.
These people are, Trevor, the hardcore Big Ten people.
They're the most arrogant pricks I've ever met.
Iowa, Minnesota,
Yes.
the pig is what matters.
Yes.
Well, that's
Paul
great.
Bunyan's axe. I mean, look at all these stupid trophies.
That doesn't mean as much when
2015
you have other people coming in.
2015 still blows my mind because I still talk to my Iowa peeps and they're like, thank God we went to the Rose Bowl that year. Which is kind of mind-blowing in and of itself because you got just absolutely smoked by Stanford and Christian
I'm starting my 10th year as the post-game host for the Iowa Hawkeye Call-In Show. 3 hours every night after an Iowa game.
Which is nuts considering you're a Cyclone fan.
God,
but anyway.
you pissed me off. But I'll never forget that year. There were some people who did not want to go to the playoffs. They wanted to go to the Rose Bowl.
A lot.
And we would sit there at night going, what are you fucking
That's like
smoking?
70% of the state of Iowa.
It was the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. Like, you want to go to the Rose Bowl and not the college football playoff because of tradition? You're stupid. You are really stupid.
But that's the Big Ten. I think that's going
Talk
to
amongst
change.
yourselves.
Rob's going to go take a piss.
I'll be right back.
But
Right.
And that baffles me, Tom. It really does.
I've gotten into this with certain Iowa people, not all. I can't speak for Iowa Hawkeye fans. I can't speak for what they want. I really can't. But I know Nebraska, and earlier this summer I wrote that Nebraska was slumming in the Big Ten West. Well, yeah, they everybody got mad. Well, yeah, they suck. They haven't won. How can it be slumming? My point is, Nebraska doesn't want to be in the Big Ten. They want to be associated with USC and Ohio State, and losing every year and being embarrassed and hasn't changed that. It'll never change that.
The interesting part, and let me just defend Iowa for a little bit. This can make Nebraska fans mad. I know that you don't think Iowa's up there with the Michigans and the Ohio States and the USCs and the UCLAs, but monetarily, Iowa's a top 25 athletic department. Iowa's a really, really good athletic department.
And I respect Iowa football for what they've done, but I will also tell you, people from Iowa say, well, Nebraska's only won the division once. Well, Iowa's only won it twice.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't disagree with you.
And they have much better talent than Nebraska. Every year they've had better teams. So they've underachieved more than Nebraska.
I don't disagree with you. And one thing that bothers me, and I've said this on Sound Off and I've said it on my radio show, the difference between Nebraska fans and Iowa fans is, or coaches or expectations. Nebraska, you can call it arrogant, but what I respect is you know where they stand. They want to win national titles. Right. Iowa never goes to that. They never say conference title. They never say national. They don't go out that far. And if they did, I'd be like, God, it's just good to hear that.
That's who the Big Ten invited into the Big Ten. You invited Nebraska. You invited that attitude.
Yes.
Don't tell me about COVID. Oh, well, go somewhere else because you want to play football. Bullshit. That's who you invited into the league. So you better just accept it and get used to it. And guess what? USC's the same way. If you invite Florida State and those guys, same deal.
Yes.
You're getting, and guess what? It was almost music to my ears here that I hear Luke Fickell say, Wisconsin, we won a national championship.
That's like the greatest thing ever.
You tell me two things. I think the two people that won Big Ten Media Days, Matt Rule and Luke Fickell. I think they both won Big Ten Media Days.
It's absolutely. And by the way, I was standing next to the Luke Fickell press conference, and I just happened to be glancing down at his shoes, and he had these really nice black dress shoes on.
This was Fickell.
And no socks. And it was painful to kind of, he's barefoot in these black, like
leather shoes. Like he might have had some booty socks on.
PJ shoes, kind of like these black dress shoes, these really shiny, sharp black dress shoes.
That's a PJ Fleck look.
Well, it's like, man, does that hurt? This guy's a badass. But Wisconsin's, this is like, hey, the Rose Bowl, it ain't about the Rose Bowl. We want to win the national championship.
Guess where
we want to hear that more, I believe. Not from everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about Iowa or anybody else, but
it's okay to say that.
You will hear that, but I don't know what Iowa wants. Some of their fans might want that. I don't know.
No, I think the younger fans do. You have the older you have a division of fandom right now. At least from what I hear on the radio show, you have young fans that want more, but the old fans who, well, let's not forget about the Evashevsky or the days before Hayden Fry. They weren't the best. Well, you know what? It's okay to.
Is it a
more.
fear thing from a fan standpoint? Like are the fans sitting around going like,
I think they've been.
Hey, we don't want to have this. We don't want to like go out on this ledge of like taking risks and trying to win titles.
Here's the
because
deal.
that might end up with a 3-9 season kind of thing.
Some of the older fans have been brainwashed to think that it's Michigan, Ohio State. If you get one every so often, that's good. Iowa right now is at an 8.5 over on Betfred Sports. So I have a hard time betting the over on that. If it was at 8, I would bet Iowa an 8. Nebraska's at 6.5. I would take Nebraska in the over at this point.
I'm taking the over
I'm taking the over right now. Now, one thing that happened this week is that tight ends coach Bob Wager was resigned because of a DUI citation. Tom, this is probably hard to hear.
I had one.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you know, the one thing I respected from you, Tom, is that you didn't run from that. I mean, you wrote about it.
You got to own it.
You have to own it. My question is, he resigned. Most people have come to me and go, really? Over a DUI? I said, here's the deal. Matt Rule had to set a culture example. And this is year number 1. And if you don't set a culture example, it's hard to lead going forward. Or, and I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there, he had more in Texas we just didn't know about. So there's a lot of things.
I don't know.
But when you heard that Wager resigned, were you surprised that he resigned? Or did you say, well, you got to kind of set an example here of what the culture is going forward?
I actually thought, and maybe it's naive, I actually thought it was his decision because he's a high school coach.
Bullshit. It wasn't his decision.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I mean, no, I think you're right. And I mean, well, another Nebraska guy had one of those years ago, the receivers coach.
I forget who that
Mike
was.
Riley.
Yeah.
Is it Williams?
Yeah. So those things, I mean, Yeah, I mean, Bob Huggins. I mean, of course, he's trying to come back, but
that's the most bizarre story.
It's not like we don't drink. I mean,
we drink a lot.
Yeah.
Luckily, I'm in my basement.
And then I usually take a nap in your basement, and then I go home.
I tell stories to people. I go, Rob stayed a good 3 to 4 hours after the podcast. People don't understand it. Rob has stayed a while to sober up, and you're drinking Diet Coke. So.
I mean, quit 5 years ago. I said when I turned 60, I wanted to do something for myself that was semi-good. And
how old are you?
I just got up one day and said, I'm full. I'm kind of done. It was like Forrest Gump when he stopped running. I believe I'm tired. I'm going to go home. I'm tired of drinking. I'm going to go home.
I think I'm going to go home.
So I put in 40 good years. That was my deal. And
I mean, full disclosure, I could have been picked up 150 times on the road for driving.
But you're from Iowa.
No, I'm just being honest.
Before I was, you bet I could have.
Yeah, I'm being honest. Rob, you're no different. I mean...
You're saying I drive drunk?
Yes, I am. But...
I'm going to like loose morals here. Like, fuck you, dude.
No, what I mean by that is, I mean, 0.08 is, I mean, for a guy your size, 0.08 is not that much.
That's like a barrel.
I mean, you're not feeling anything at 0.08. I watch you drink Busch Light and Coors Light like it's water. Okay,
it kind of is.
I know. So I'm not, saying anything bad about you.
Well, no. My point is though is that we do this podcast.
Yeah.
One of two things happen when we do this podcast.
Yeah.
I take a nap in your basement.
That's true. True story.
Or I go up to your kitchen.
Yes.
And I hang out with your wife and daughters.
Who makes really good food.
And just like annihilate the food they cook. For like 2 hours.
But to say that we've never driven drunk.
That's calculated.
It does. But to say we've never driven drunk would be inaccurate. We've driven drunk.
I've never driven drunk in my life.
But there are certain jobs where you lose your job when you do that.
Yes.
And I fortunately was not one of that. So, but I'm gonna just say I
am one of those, so I tend to not drive drunk.
Sorry, but you know what I mean when I'm saying that.
No, okay. I mean, it's one of those things. I guess my take on this is that was this only an isolated DUI issue, and him plus the university decided, hey, maybe you should step away from this. No, there was something else going on, and I don't know if it was okay, we got you here on staff, and from a personality clash standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, from a how you get along with ancillary staff standpoint, whatever the thing is, if you're going to look at this situation and say this was due solely 100% and completely due to a DUI, I'm not buying it.
I'm with you. I follow in your camp.
Yeah, and I'm not. I don't think there's.
But I can see where it was too, because what you said, you're just starting out. You've got to lay down the law right before camp,
and that might be it.
And I think he was way over the deal. I mean, I'm not sure you want to.
Well.
Have a sliding scale there, but I think you got to tell your players, okay, well, we're going to keep the coach, but if you do it, you're out. You can't.
Yeah. If you do it, you're getting suspended for a game. The other thing as well too is, I mean, there's DUIs where you get pulled over and the cop's like, "Holy shit, dude, you're freaking drunk. It's a DUI. Let's head in. Call your spouse, call your buddy, call your brother to come pick you up." Yeah. That's one thing. There's also what appears to be this one where it was got pulled over for DUI.
Now you've got root beer.
Refused any kind of breathalyzer or drug test. Refused to be tested. Little belligerence, so on and so forth. There's a few layers here to this. It wasn't just got pulled over for DUI. He's busted. He's going to go sit in the clink for.
He might have said, "I'm not tested." I think he fought it.
That's my thing. He refused the test.
I think so, yeah.
And I mean, if you do that, it's kind of an interesting thing as a physician. There's this whole ethical thing where, because the police will bring on occasion DUI arrests to the ED and come in, and if you're covering in the emergency room, the question is like, hey, this guy refused the test. We need you to draw blood from this guy, which technically, if you're drawing blood, you're poking a needle into a person.
What do you mean technically? There's no other way to do it.
Well, I guess I say technically in the sense that you're doing it without the patient's consent.
Oh, okay.
You're doing it at the order of a law enforcement official.
Okay.
Well, I
and so now
did all that.
From a medical ethics standpoint, that's assault. Now, medical assault is different from legal assault, but there's anyway. Sorry, I'm kind of tangenting here. What I'm trying to say is that there's this multi-layered level of dealing with a DUI, and this was not a run-of-the-mill. We gotcha.
Yeah.
You got a DUI, give your lawyer a call, et cetera, et cetera. He fought this, he fought that. It got complicated. And all of a sudden, now you've got multiple issues to deal with beyond just the fact that it's a DUI. It wasn't this really clean cut thing,
Tom,
and I think that plays into it with this, where now it's a deal where it's kind of this. Okay, not only is it that, but I mean, you refuse the drug test, you got a little belligerent with the police, so on and so forth. It's.
I don't think you can draw. You can have a sliding scale. I think it's either this or that.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the hardest phone call to make, to your employer or to your wife?
Oh, well, I didn't even call my wife. I mean, it happened. It happened. Well, I mean,
it was on West Dodge, right?
We just had our first baby.
That's right.
And I hadn't eaten all day because you're having a baby. You're doing this. You're doing that. You forget what time it is, and then, hey, I'm going to go across the street to the Holiday and celebrate.
That's a bad place to celebrate.
It was. And
wait a second. I don't know the Holiday.
Oh, really? Are you from? You're from Omaha.
No, I'm from Lincoln.
But you've lived here for 20 years.
True.
So the Holiday is right by Jerry Ryan Gentleman Apparel.
It's one of the old school bars.
On Dodge.
Yeah.
Right off Dodge. Yeah. And I'm telling you, the drinks are stiff at the Holiday.
The Holiday. I mean, I know the onion.
But I mean, across
is
the
it
street,
green onion?
There's like a village in
the.
What's that?
Green onion is stiff.
This is a different deal.
Different deal.
Okay. I don't know the Holiday.
I'll take you there sometime.
But
that doesn't sound like a good idea if I want to not get a DUI.
Just drink beer, and then don't drive home. I mean,
well, I can.
But they didn't have Uber then. There was no Uber there.
I was driving down West Dodge, and I'm thinking about being a dad, and my adrenaline's up. I've had beers, I haven't had food.
How old were you? Do you mind me asking?
2001.
Wow. So this was 22 years ago?
That's how old she is. Yeah. Whenever her birthday, I always celebrate I haven't got through another year without another DUI. So, but
see, it's good to laugh about it because we've all been there. We all have been there. Whether we've been busted or not is another thing. We've all been there.
But basically, the guy stopped me. I said, "Yeah, I've been drinking. I just had a few, but I don't know what I'm at." He said, "Well, I'm gonna." You got me out, and I guess I didn't pass the deal. So he said, "Well, we're gonna test you." I said, "I'll do a test. That's fine." So he took me into their lab or wherever they do the test, and then I was just over, but I'm still over, still counts. And he drove me back to like a 7-Eleven or it was like one of the convenience store gas stations on like 72nd Street, wherever it was. And he said, because I left my car on 680 or right around 680 or Dodge or whatever that thing was. So he said, "Now get something to eat and call a cab and go home." So I did, and so I got back to the hospital the next day, and I had to tell her in person. So. And she, it happens.
Was the World Herald pissed at you or not? Were they pretty understanding?
They were upset, but they were. I mean, my whole thing was, look, I just had a baby, and I wasn't thinking. And
fucking own it. I mean, you owned
counts.
it. I mean,
I did.
Yes.
I did. And I said the worst part about it was the hands that held my newborn daughter were back behind my back and the cuffs, and it says like this is the same day. So, yeah, it sucked. It still sucks. But I finally forgave myself for it because you have to.
You have to, and I'm willing to bet, Tom. I'm willing to bet, just because I've talked a lot about my dysfunction and the family type that I grew up in, shit that I'm still dealing with today. More people reach out to you and say, "Hey, I've been there with you, and I know exactly what you're going through, and thank you for writing about it." I'm willing to bet that. I wrote about
it, and I went on the Todd and Tyler show, remember? And they were all over me. I said, bring it. I don't care. I deserve everything I get. That's fine.
For all the drugs those two have used, and I loved them. I was on that show for a long time.
Hold on. Mike and Todd have taken drugs.
Are you? Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Hey, Fan Day was today was Fan Day. We're recording this on Sunday. The
was
30th.
It really?
Yeah, it was.
I said in all seriousness.
Yeah, no, it was. Miles Farmer, 11-game starter from last year, was not at Fan Day. Kind of an indication he's in the transfer portal or not going to be part of the Husker team this year.
I just heard that from you. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, Brody, is it Tagalola? Is that how you say it? Jacob Hood and Joshua Fleeks, not at Fan Day. That's according to Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. And then Marcus Washington had his right hand in a cast as they preseason opens Monday morning already. Monday morning.
Keep in mind,
first game 1 month later.
The first year is still going to be a little bit of a bus station.
But you still like Nebraska at over 6.5, right? I do. I like wins.
Oh, geez.
We talk betting here, Tom.
I don't know. I mean, how do you pick them to do something they haven't done in the last?
Because I don't think they're that far off.
But that's why you hire a guy to make him do that. So somebody said, well, the 4 should be 6 wins. You should at least get to a bowl game. I said, yeah, but how do you pick them to? They've never 7 or 8 wins. They haven't won 4 or 5. How do you do that? They haven't learned how to win yet. So I'm going to predict 6 and 6, just because it's in the middle and.
Wow.
They should be better, but how do you pick them to go better than that? How do you do it? You haven't done it.
That's fair.
You can't.
I'm with Tom.
Until they've done it.
6 and 6? You're betting the under?
No, so I'm almost, you know what, I was at the over. I think in this podcast.
I'm on the over, dude. I really am. I'm buying 7.
Yeah, like literally I said I was on the over earlier.
Too, but until they do it, how do you pick it?
Here's the thing. Every place Rule's been, year 1 has been trash.
It has been.
Now, I'm not saying it's trash due to Rule, but
it's what you inherit.
It kind of is. I mean, I think he inherited an okay situation and an okay group of players at Temple. But Rule is a guy who I think he's got a little bit of a system. He's got a bit of, here's the kind of type of players I want. And I think at Temple, he didn't have that when he hit the door there.
That's fair.
Baylor,
he definitely didn't have
that.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's a different situation. When he got to Temple, though, Temple was playing within the scope of whatever conference Temple is. I have no idea. They were very...
A-10, yeah.
They were okay. They weren't great, but they were okay.
Keep talking, because you know what I have to do now?
You got to go to the bathroom.
So, Owen, get the shot on Tom and Rob.
All right. Anyway, so when Rule hits the door at Temple, they were actually playing fairly reasonably good football. They took a big step backwards year 1. That was not a great year. Year 2 was okay. I don't know the number. I don't know if it was 5 and 7. I don't know if it's 6 and 6. I don't know if it's 7-5, but it was okay. Year 3 and 4, they won 10 wins both.
It's always year 3 for him, but
yeah,
it's like Joshua Perry, the NBC former Ohio State. I talked to him about it. He said, "I'm intrigued by Rule in Nebraska because year 1 is always a struggle, but he said they shouldn't struggle this year."
Might be the most he's had to work with in a year 1 any place he's been. And I do the NFL stuff. I throw that out. I don't count that at all, but
you can't. But I mean, how many games were they just like the Wisconsin game last year? They gave up a late touchdown. Minnesota saying they should.
Every game every game they were in, they were right there.
Right there.
Well, you look at that. I guess it would have been the 2021 season. I remember somebody ran the statistics through a computer program that spit out what is the probability of whatever your end of season record's going to be.
Right.
And after that 2021 season, which, I mean, that was essentially Frost's last year as a full head coach, there was something like it was a 1 in 1,300 probability that they would finish where they finished. That was the game where, that was the season where, every game was this almost, they were this close to winning every damn game.
I think coaching matters. I think it's, but they got to get confidence. They got have something good happen, especially early in the season. I think to go to a bowl game, I think you better get a split out of the first 2.
True.
Which probably means Colorado, because I don't think they're going to win the first one.
What do you think of Deion? I love him.
He's fine. I just think he better.
I like Deion, but I'm not sure I'm buying it.
But what I mean is he hasn't changed since he was a player. The dude is who he is. If people think, oh my God, this area, I'm like, have you paid attention to Deion Sanders for the last 20 years?
I played against the guy.
Yeah?
And I had to come around on like sweeps and block the dude.
No,
he hasn't changed it at all, by the way.
I said my joke. I said, well, who's going to teach Colorado how to tackle? It ain't going to be the head coach. But I just
fair.
Okay, hold on. Stop. Tom.
I gotta say,
Tom.
What?
High five for that.
But I gotta say,
dude, the dude would not tackle anybody. He was a cover guy.
But
he was not a tackle.
I totally
guy.
respect what he's going through with his health. That takes a lot of guts.
Yeah.
He's obviously made of something. Very very strong. Strong will, strong faith. The guy's got it because he's going to try to coach this year, and I don't know if he
might lose a foot
if he can stand up on the sidelines or how that's going to work.
He's trying to do a job that requires basically. That's 120 hours a week.
He's got a lot of heart in there.
Okay, Rob. So you talk about what's going on with his foot. How hard is that to deal with?
I got to be honest with you. I don't know what the underlying condition is. So that makes it hard for me to comment on it. The bottom line is you've got a guy who's in a position as a college football head coach, which
he's got blood clots.
God, Tommy went through that.
No, but he's already lost a toe.
Yeah,
and they're saying he may lose the foot eventually.
So the question is what for me from a medical standpoint is trying to figure out what's causing it. With Tommy, I don't want to go into that too much. There's a list of probably 20 different things that could lead to this. So I don't want to speculate too much on what the actual underlying cause is. The bottom line is you've got a guy who's got some health problems, who's working a gig that is arguably I get it from a compensation standpoint. It's amazingly outstanding. But in terms of what you have to put into it from a time commitment, he's working, 110, 120 hour a week gig.
True.
That's brutal.
It is.
I've always looked at college football coaches, and the thought process to me has always been whatever they earn, they are truly earning that. They deserve, they get anything they get, they deserve. So I don't have a problem with that. I look at a guy like Deion, the things he says, the things he does. Would I like to see Deion succeed? Yes, I would, as long as it's not at Nebraska's expense. But it's one of those things where whatever he's doing there, he's working his ass off.
I'll give him that. I think
the guy is putting his health on the line to try and bring Colorado football back up to whatever level they want to be at. I'm not sure I'm going to see it happen. I'm not sure it's going to actually happen. I'm not sure trying to create a roster where 60% of the players are coming out of the transfer portal. I'm not sure that's the smartest way to go about doing it. I think
they have a better chance in the Pac 6, whatever it is now, than they win the Big 12.
The Pac 6.
The Big 12 is that's big boy football.
It is.
The Big 12 plays. Kansas State's freaking great.
Okay, you just told Tom.
Good.
You just told us that was a second string conference
in terms of money.
Well, yeah,
that's why you rank these things.
Well,
the Big Ten isn't that good. Hell, who's good?
That's a good question. The Big Ten has more money, and at the top might be the best, but. He's not wrong. Top to bottom, the Big 12 is pretty damn good football, and it's fun football to watch.
That's why I say about the
football.
SEC.
I'm not saying top to bottom it's good.
That's how I feel about the SEC. They're the greatest conference ever. You go through it. Wait a minute. Missouri, South Carolina, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is good.
Ole Miss is okay.
But I mean, A&M wasn't good.
I just feel like but the thing is though, to win the SEC,
at the very top, it's the best.
Speaking
okay, so here's the thing. Okay, hold on. To win between the big, Big Ten, SEC.
Yeah.
To win that, there's about 3 to 5 teams you've got to beat to win it.
True.
That 3 to 5 teams in the SEC is pretty goddamn good.
It is.
In the Big Ten,
I agree. But I'm just talking about all the way down. All the way down.
There's maybe
the lineup.
4. You got Michigan and Ohio State.
Well,
you got
Penn State.
Depending on the year, you've got Penn State. Outside of that, man, it gets sketchy really quick.
Well, this is what is going to be interesting. As an old Big Ten guy, you know this. Used to be Michigan, Ohio State. And then occasionally Iowa would sneak into the Rose Bowl. Yeah. Purdue would go the big Purdue Rose Bowl year. And, it's on Big Ten Network.
Northwestern has its
everybody's
Pat
had a
year in 95.
We haven't got into Pat Fitzgerald. I mean, hell, we could go into that.
I don't want to do that.
Okay, right there.
But I'm just saying
finish this
the
thought
future
process.
of that is a consensus this past week in Indianapolis was Big Ten is probably going to get 3. Once it goes to 12, it'll get 3 a year, maybe 4. So 4 at the most is of what people think. So
out of how many teams? 12?
Yeah. I think it might be 5, but the SEC definitely
still pretty
good. 5. I think they'll get 4.
So SEC gets how many?
I don't know.
Give me a ballpark. Ballpark it.
5.
5.
5 out of 12?
Big Ten gets 4. Big Ten gets 4. Everybody else gets 3.
Absolutely. That's what's going to happen.
Perfect. I love it.
But my point is, if it's 4, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, USC, off the top of your head every year, that's how you start.
That's fair.
And so
I have no problem.
If you're the rest of the league,
fine, knock one of those guys off.
You're not trying to go to you're not trying to be in Ohio State, Michigan. You're trying to be 4 So it's maybe a little easier to get in the top 4, maybe not. But that's the future. No more Rose Bowl. It's go to the playoff.
Yes, 100%.
And so Nebraska,
which is the way it ought to be. Okay, fuck the Rose Bowl.
I don't disagree with you at this point. The Rose
At
Bowl is
this
meaningless.
point,
Any bowl game at this point is
mind
meaningless.
blowing that the fact that you would hitch your wagon to a bowl game as opposed to a championship.
Oh yeah, Tom said he's got to go. It's
I mean, how long does this Wayne's World last anyway?
We don't have any, Tom.
Okay.
We'll go all night.
Here's the deal, Tom. We can go all night.
Okay, hold on.
Until we run out of fruity beers.
I need 3 minutes of.
I've never had a guest say he's got to go.
Your thoughts.
Joe
on
Mobley has
Pat
stayed here all
Fitzgerald.
night just drinking.
I can't. I got to go do some stuff.
Okay, Joe owns half the world. And he was basically like, how much beer do you guys have?
By the way, Cody
Cody
from Arkansas, who's working at Prairie Meadows, is the one that
Yes.
sent us a lot of beer. Cody
gives us so much
Today,
beer.
I saw you today on TV.
Who did?
The Big Ten Network showed generally I hate when the Big Ten says Nebraska Classic. You know, Tommy Frazier, a Big Ten legend. Bullshit. He's a Big 8 legend. They showed the 94 Colorado game on TV today.
And if you go back and listen to the original Pipeline podcast when it first comes out, we talk a lot about that Colorado game in 1994.
It was. I was watching the thing, and
by the way, I'm insulted that you call this Wayne's World because this is a better studio than most radio stations.
Excellent, party on.
This is a good radio station.
Swing.
This is good.
This is a good setup. It really is. It just reminds me of Wayne's World. But that's a
Like
compliment.
right now, I'm
That's a
sitting here going
compliment.
like, do you realize how much content? I know producer Owen hates that.
We're
word,
135 minutes or 1 hour and 35
that was
minutes in.
by the way.
Are we really?
Yeah.
Back to that
that's
game.
pretty damn good.
That was a hard hitting game. I was listening to it,
Are you serious?
and there was
That
a
was
lot
hit and
of.
giggle.
Well, the second half, Nebraska didn't do much on offense.
You know what?
You know why?
You
Because
were
they
way
didn't
up
have
on.
to.
You're way up on. They didn't have to.
We were up 17-0. We came out. We went up
That was-
24-0.
It was just interesting to see. Colorado was
Brooke threw pick. He himself told us, he was like, oh, God, yeah, that was all on me.
Colorado had some big studs on that team. You know
Okay.
what? They don't have anybody like that now.
No.
Actually, now that Colorado team, you go through that Colorado lineup, mind-blowing how good they were.
Well, because the people at Penn State always argue, well, we should have won the national championship because Nebraska didn't play anybody in the Orange Bowl. Miami wasn't that good. And there was
Wait a sec.
I know.
Miami was
That's what Penn State people.
the Miami defense.
They didn't play anybody in Oregon in the Rose Bowl either. But
All I know is that Miami defense,
I know.
I think it was 7 first-round draft
Ray
picks.
Lewis and Warren. I know. Well,
They had 2 NFL Hall of Famers on that defense.
you blocked them.
Yeah,
were going
we
boom,
blocked
boom
the
with
shit
them.
out of those guys.
But Penn State people, well, nobody didn't play anybody in the Big 8. And I said, well, Colorado was number 3 in the country. They were freaking good.
They were really
They
good.
were excellent.
I
just couldn't
actually
beat
counted up.
Nebraska.
If you count up, so if you look at Colorado 94, 95, so you look at the guys who were, say, juniors, 4th-year juniors in 94, that Colorado team put, I got to do the math here, but out of 22, don't laugh at me.
Sorry.
Out of 22 starters, okay, what is...
That's a fly that just landed on you.
Yeah, this is your house, dude.
I have flies.
That's okay, dude. It's life. They happen. That Colorado team, I think it was, if you count like Nickelbacks,
Yeah.
that's a band. I just cracked myself up there. No, they had like 23 out of 22 starters
Yeah.
made it to the NFL.
23 of 22 starters made it to the NFL.
I mean, this
Nickel guys.
This is a conversation I will not be having.
I think
with
Kerry
Matt
Hicks,
Rule, by
who was
way.
the nose guard, I think
Matt
Kerry
Rule-
Hicks was the only guy who didn't actually make an
Do you think
NFL
Matt Rule will
team.
drink a beer with us?
Matt Rule played on that team. He was part of that 94 Penn State team.
I still want to ask Matt Rule. 94 Nebraska.
We may get that opportunity. I've been told we're going to get that opportunity.
He might.
We've been working it. It was supposed to be You're a fill-in. It was supposed to be today. It didn't fall. It didn't pan out. Hopefully, in the next week or two.
Well,
That being said,
now.
I would take Tom Shatel every damn.
Matt Rule is going to come here during August.
No, we may go to him.
Oh,
We're trying. We're trying.
It's hard to do that kind of stuff right now.
I don't disagree with you. That's why I was kind of surprised when I got a note today that says
But
we
here
may
was
go
my
to him.
response to the Penn State writers, the people that did all this. I said, okay, who was your best player in 94? And they said, Kajana Carter or somebody like that. And I said...
Which Kijana was amazing. Don't get me wrong.
But I said, okay, now go back and pretend you don't have him for 8 or 9 games in that season. Does Penn State still go undefeated? How do they do? Well, I think they do. I don't know. I mean, it'd be a tough... well, Nebraska lost their best football player, Tommy Frazier, early, and they still went undefeated because that's how freaking good
for
they were.
8 games, he was gone.
You went to the...
Okay, I want to ask you this question. Was he your best football player?
Tommy?
Yeah.
He was most valuable, but by far. The offensive line was pretty valuable. But everybody, that defense, but yeah, he was.
The silence was deafening right there. That was.
I think he and Johnny Rodgers are the top 2 players of all time in Nebraska.
He's
the best player.
You just started a war, dude.
I'm about to throw down.
If you only knew the
Tom
war.
Shatel thought he was going to come here to do a podcast
If it wasn't
instead
him,
of getting his ass
if it
kicked.
wasn't him, now the offensive line, as we saw at Manhattan, proved but they were very valuable as a group. But I'm just telling you,
What is he missing?
that's how good this team was.
Listen. I don't even have to.
You had Matt Turman taking handoffs.
I need a dude, Owen. I need a beer, dude.
He was the best player.
Right now.
He was the best player. The best player.
Who?
Frazier. I'm not saying he was most popular.
Look how pissed he is.
I'm not saying he was
love
most popular.
This is awesome.
He was more popular than Scott Frost, probably. But
Oh, we're going from Frazier to Frost
That's
now?
what I
What the
just
fuck?
heard. That's just what I heard.
I just said popularity. He was the best player.
If people could only feel the tension in this room right now between Rob and Tom Shatel,
And Tom doesn't even know
Rob was so excited.
What's upsetting me?
Rob was so excited that Tom was going. He's like, dude, I've got like fan going on because I respect Tom as a writer.
I literally said I'm fangirl, like in a text to you, I am fangirling
did I
over
say?
Tom Shatel.
I think it's
did
Tom.
you get me a beer? Thank you. Fuck.
I don't think the
Who
Tommy
are
thing
we
is
not talking about?
Orth Phillips?
Brooke Behringer.
Oh my God, dude. I'm going to.
94.
I thought you and I were friends.
Oh, excuse me.
Fucking Missouri fans. What the hell?
Rob Z. I'm sorry. Number 56. Number one in your-
Goddamn Mizzou
Number
fans.
1 in your
What
heart,
the
number
hell?
56 on your program.
Still pissed about Sue. Oh my God.
Oh shit!
I walked into that one.
Listen. I've put up with this too, Tom. Just to let you know that because I didn't have Brooke Behringer in one of my top 5 quarterbacks of Nebraska all time, I'm an asshole. Just to let you know.
All right, Tom, guess what? You just fell into it, buddy.
I did. I'd always do.
Top 4.
We're an hour 42 into this.
Top 4 quarterbacks Nebraska football history. Who you got?
Frazier,
Be smart.
Gill, Taggy. Although Taggy Bronson were, but yeah.
Dude, you know what? Van Bronson, highly underrated.
No.
Tom, say Brooke.
Pretty goddamn good.
Brooke. Just say Brooke.
I think he had the top season.
Say Brooke, Tom.
All right, Brooke. I like Brooke. What?
Would you? Okay, hold on. Let's do this.
Love the guy.
Mount Rushmore of Nebraska
Here we go.
quarterbacks. Who you got? You can go up to 6.
Oh, jeez.
Crouch.
Don't have to go 4. You can go 6. Who you got?
Frazier, Gill, Taggy, Crouch, Bering. I'll say Brooke.
Thank you. You just didn't get your ass kicked right there.
Who would have been in the transfer portal? Maybe. We don't know.
No, I'm not denying that.
6 is, Churchich was the 1 year. Taylor's,
Bob was
Taylor's
up there.
underrated.
I think Steve's highly underrated.
And
let's say you want to win a national title. Who are you going with?
He's going with Frazier.
We already said Frazier. Who else you got?
Oh.
You're going to win a national title.
Well, I will give Frost credit for the Missouri game. I think I got lucky, but he did before the miracle play. There were a lot of plays made leading up to that.
I get it.
So I will give him for that. National title. What are you talking about?
How many national titles does Nebraska have?
Oh, 5, but I mean,
who are the quarterbacks?
Frazier and Taggy.
Frost.
Frazier,
and Frost.
Taggy,
Yeah.
Frost,
Right.
Brooke.
Yes, absolutely.
Which national title did Brooke win?
94.
Did he play much in the second half?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, for 8 fucking games,
He
asshole.
played second and third quarter.
Sorry.
And then Warren Sapp started yapping.
You see what I do here, Tom? I just poked the bear. All I do is poke the bear.
I didn't know about the bear. I didn't know what the bear
He's
liked.
very passionate about this.
I still stand by what I said, but I love Brooke. I
love Tommy. I love Brooke. I'm just saying, you can't have one without the other.
Okay, that's fair.
Yin, yang,
fair.
black, white. Got to have them both.
Tom Shatel, you are successfully now the part of the longest Doc Talk podcast presented by Betfred Sports ever. We're at an hour and 45 minutes. And we didn't take a commercial break.
I thought you said you went all night.
Well, we could. We could easily go all night.
I can't go on.
I know.
I cannot go all night. But I'll
Weak
come back.
effort, Tom.
I'll come back.
Weak
Will you come
effort.
back? Seriously?
Yeah, whenever.
All right. We're going to hold you
do
to
you know
it.
what I want to do?
Okay.
Picture Joe Moglia,
Yeah.
Tom Shatel,
Same
you
room?
and me, same room.
Oh, boy.
You didn't ask me any media questions or stories or about this or about interviews. And
This is not a one-time thing.
This is not a one-time.
It's happening again.
Here's the deal, Tom. I mean, the truth is, I don't know if people. I mean, maybe people care about that. Maybe they don't. What we do is just start having a conversation. And we start talking, and wherever it goes, it goes. And cause we have people. We've had a lot of guests on here. They're like, "What are we going to talk about?" I'm like, "I really don't know. Let's just start having a conversation." And wherever that leads us, it's usually pretty organic, pretty vulnerable, and pretty good. I think you've been good.
Let me just tell you, there were in the time that I've covered Nebraska, there were the 80s. I mean, Broderick. Everybody went to Broderick, and you will never ever disappointed. But since I've been in Omaha, 91, I had 2 go-to guys, and that was. Trev Alberts was always the guy I went right to. The other one was number 56. I love offensive linemen. I've always been a Mel Tenneper is my favorite. And we're going to start the Mel Tenneper Award this year. I would love to have you in on that if you'd like to join us.
I don't know about this.
The high school Atlan Trophy, the top lineman in Nebraska. We're going to select it, and we're going to give it out at the dinner every year in honor of Milt. So,
Okay, by the way, you've got my number.
I know.
That means call it.
All right,
Call me, dude.
I will. But you were always. I love linemen. Linemen are smartest guys on the field, and I've always interviewed. If I wanted to know what happened on offense, I went to an offensive lineman.
See, because offensive linemen like Rob are the smartest people on the field. Hey, practice starts on Monday, the 31st. We're going to be back next Sunday with another Doc Talk podcast presented by Betfred Sports. Big thanks to Tom Shatel for coming in. I know we probably didn't get a lot of your stuff, but we're at an hour and 46 minutes.
We really got to do this again with Tom.
We do. Tom, feel free to be a regular, because there was a point, there was a time when the World Herald would not let their writers be part of podcasts. Now they can be open and honest and even swear. He dropped an S-bomb or two tonight. Well, maybe we'll get
he did.
We'll get him to drop an F-bomb every once in a while. Big thanks to Betfred Sports for being our presenting sponsor. Betfred Sports, get in on the great deal for Betfred Sports right now. When you make your wager of $50 or more on your first bet, you'll immediately get $111 in Fred bets and 50% back on your losses up to $200 weekly.
My F-bomb right here is my F-bomb.
From the first 5 weeks with betting with Fred. Thanks to Connor Orr in Horgan and our good buddy Scott Strunk. 2 locations in the Omaha area. Go to huskerhounds.com to buy all your Husker gear. Thanks for joining us on the Doc Talk Podcast presented by Betfred Sports. We'll talk to you next week.